Fraser here at AUTODRONE, and I'm delighted to be firmly ensconced in the office of Mr. Gordon Mellis, spinster of this parish in the south borders of Scotland in a place called Birgham. We're down here, or I'm down here as I catch up from days of elderly personages running motorsport. And just generally having a catch up whilst I'm on holiday. Gordon, welcome to AUTODRONE.
Thank you very much.
It's been a while. We haven't spoken properly face to face since November.
Correct.
And of course, nothing's happened since then, really, has it?
Not much, because we're living on memories.
Exactly. It's just becoming one of those things where memories. Talking of which, my first memory of you, going back to the early days, was as a poacher, because you were a motor racing driver and occasionally fell foul of my clerking. Would that be fair?
Motor racing driver is, I think, probably an overstatement. I was on the same track as other people who were racing.
I thought, yes. But always in an immaculately turned out car.
Well, absolutely. But no, yes, I've always been involved in motorsport since a very young age, so I've both marshalled and competed at various levels, so yes.
But what started you off?
Started karting.
Yeah.
When I was 13, back in the black and white days.
Right. The days of Red X.
Yeah. Was taken down to Ingliston Race Circuit at Edinburgh by friends, and I'd always been keen on motorsport and cars of all descriptions. Started racing karts, raced karts for about 17 years, went on to be a rally co-driver, and also obviously trying to put something back into the sport. Did a lot of marshalling.
Yeah. Which was when you became a gamekeeper, but there was lots of poaching before then, I think.
Oh yeah, so I did lots of marshalling and driving, but then career took over, and
right.
I ended up in countries where there was very little motorsport.
My understanding from Port Glynis, your charming lady wife has told me, you ended up in countries where there was very little of anything.
Yes. Very, very true. Yes, so I went into a real barren spell of motorsport, and sometimes the only motorsport that we got involved in was watching NASCAR on TV from darkest, deepest Africa.
Right.
But when I got to Australia, I thought, here's an opportunity to rekindle my interest in motorsport, and went into the local radical dealer in Eastern Creek in Sydney.
Right, I didn't know this bit.
So went into the radical dealer and looked at the radicals and thought, oh, well, that looks handy.
Yeah.
And I was offered a passenger ride.
Right.
And I almost blacked out coming into the pit lane, such was the acceleration of the thing.
Yeah.
And
so you thought at the time?
Yes.
Yeah.
And did a few laps. Couldn't believe both the power and also the braking and just the general handling. And
what engine was in that car?
Suzuki Hayabusa.
Right, that's
1500 cc.
That's quick enough. Right.
So did a few laps as a passenger on that. Came in and visited again the following weekend. And this time I was asked to go on to do a test drive.
Right.
So they got me kitted all up in overalls and helmet. And I think I sat in the car for about 20 minutes trying to pluck up courage to press the start button.
Right.
And then when I finally did, I went out and I thought, this is just the most fantastic thing I've ever driven in all my life. And I was hooked from there. So I started racing in Australia.
Right. What age would you have been then? Because I know from my own experience of Caterham Super 7s, there comes a point where it's easy enough getting into them, but not so clever getting out.
Yes, well, that was always an issue with me. But no, I was probably, I was at the quick calculation, that's probably about 15 years ago now. So, and the Radical series in Australia was very much a gentleman's racing series.
Right.
So it wasn't quite after you, Claude, but it wasn't far from it,
Yes.
you know.
Right.
So I did that. And the reason I got back into the leading up to the poacher becoming gamekeeper was that in Australia they have a very good system whereby that once you've done your novice races,
Yeah.
before you can get a full license, you have to marshal at one event.
Right. Okay.
Otherwise, you don't get your license,
Right.
which is very good
That's
because
a good system.
it gives the drivers the marshal's eye perspective of what's going on. So I was paired up with another marshal for an event, and lo and behold, as soon as I got behind the barriers with the flags, I thought, "Oh, I remember this. This was good fun. I remember doing all this."
Yeah.
So for the rest of my time in Australia, I spent a lot of time, probably just as much time marshalling as I did actually competing.
Right, so you had the radical in Australia,
Yeah.
as well as marshalling.
Yeah. So the first radical I had was a used radical in Rothman's colours.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And I...
Days of cigarette wars.
Yes. And marshalled all over Australia, the V8 supercars, and then got more involved as an assistant clerk of the course, and then did some stewarding. But the thing, of course, in Australian motorsport is it's multidiscipline. So it's not like you have a circuit clerk of the course or a rally clerk of the course or a rally steward. You do everything. So one week you're doing gymkhanas, next week you're doing a hill climb,
Right.
then you're doing a circuit race. So it's multidiscipline. So that's...
Would you go as far as to say that it doesn't give you the opportunity to get too full of yourself?
Yeah, probably.
Which is possibly where I went wrong.
And you have to keep a keen eye on the rule book.
Oh, right, you do, yeah.
Every rule book's different, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So that's how it all started. And then when I moved career-wise from Australia to the Middle East, then I acquired a new radical, the green and yellow one.
Yes. The most immaculately turned out car ever to grace the circuit, as I remember.
So
And sometimes never used because people were just looking at it, and so were you.
So from that perspective, that's when it started.
Yeah.
And then I got more involved in, well, I started clerking and karting in the
Yes.
Middle East Championships in Oman.
Or you were Oman first. Is that whilst you were racing still?
Yeah, so we were based in Muscat,
Right.
clerking in karts, and then flying up to Dubai and Yas to
Racing. I just remember the car going round and round, and you didn't always. I don't think it was always fair that you earned the nickname of Gordon the Backmarker, because you weren't always last. People broke down, and Carl Lawson used to stop for cigarettes.
Well, actually, you see, the Gordon the Backmarker came about in Australia. There was myself, and there was another Gordon that was racing.
Right.
And we were in the pit garages one day, and somebody was shouting, "You know, have you seen Gordon?" And somebody said, "Which one?" And I said, "Gordon the Backmarker."
Right. So it's stuck.
So it's stuck. That's how the name came about. Right. But no, I wasn't very competitive, and obviously working on a shoestring budget, and my dear wife Glynis, voice in my ears, reminding me that if I bent it, that would be it. There would be no more motor racing. But so yes, I raced with some of the best in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Just not on the same lap.
Brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. And of course, that was the Autodrome and Yas.
And yes.
In the old days before they changed the shape,
Yes.
which is, I think, looking up here.
That's
You've
right.
got that.
Yes.
You've got that.
And of course, Yas is one of my favourite places. You know,
Right.
Dubai Autodrome and Yas between them, and memories. Well, memories. It's very, very happy days there.
Yes, I think we all quite enjoyed those days. It was a little bit less frenetic than I think it might be now. Although I'm not really in a position to comment because I don't really do very much anymore.
So sorry to interrupt you there, but just coming into the Middle East and then getting involved with yourself as an assistant clerk and then getting more involved at YAS and doing more throughout the Middle East and karting. It was just fantastic. I used to at the time of my life. But
because you're quite an accomplished author in various fields. I mean, I have been the proud recipient today of a book on the history of the village in which you live, but you've also written stuff on various other topics, including karting and British football.
Yeah, well, I think the football one's a one-off there, I think. But no, yeah, I did a karting book way back in 2013 when I was in the Middle East, and it's now in its 10th year. Sold over 5,000 copies.
Oh my goodness.
And the 2023 edition has got forwards written by George Russell and Sebastian Vettel. So I was well pleased to get
I should think you would be.
those endorsements.
George is a nice chap.
He is. George really is. Sebastian was very nice too. He was very helpful. And they both wrote, 3 pages of motivating points to the young drivers. And the book's gone all over the world. It's going, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago. There's a Dutch version being translated. It's going Singapore, Malaysia, throughout the Middle East. And in Australia, they've adopted it. It's been adopted by the Australian Karting Federation, and they issue it with their license to.
Excellent. And that's sort of regularly updated as the regulations change and just modified.
So the whole idea of the book was basically to take what is a very technical and wordy regulation book, necessarily so, but you can't expect children from, the racing drivers of today in karting are aged between 6 and 16.
Right.
And you can't expect to give the blue book to a young kid of 8 years old, or even his parents, and say, go and read that.
Right, but that's part of the problem, isn't it?
It is.
Because you hand a book like that over to a kid who's not going to read it. They hand it over to their parents, and then the parents are going to look at it in a way that they can interpret it in favour of their up-and-coming stars. So you end up with all sorts of difficulties.
So the book is primarily illustration-based, a lot of cartoons, using simple, plain English that the kids would understand, with sections for the parents where it simply states, please hand this to your parents now and read this bit. But it is designed or developed to be of great interest to the kids in terms of the pictures and the illustrations trying to explain the regulations and like starting procedures and all the complex things. If you're trying to tell a kid, even at a driver's briefing, it's really just going over the top of his head.
So if they're even paying attention.
So if they can see it graphically, that makes all the difference.
Yeah. And do you see that book continuing? Is there any reason that it would have to be modified beyond initial recognition?
I would have to maintain my interest so I can keep up to date with the regulations. But the one thing I would love to do as a what shall I say, as an add-on to the book, or not even an add-on, but as a development to the book, is to put it online. So not only could the children and the parents read the book, but they could be tested on their acquisition of knowledge.
Right.
So kartingquiz.com is what I have set up.
Right.
But it would basically be an online, free-to-use platform that would be paid for by the karting regulators in each country. It could be easily translated because again it's predominantly illustration based, and the kids could go on and they could study, read everything in the book, and then do a quiz at the end of each chapter, and then be able to download a certificate saying they've done karting quiz and got X.
And got X. So that any clerk that was coming out of a bit of an idea that they, number one, that they knew a little bit about what they were doing, but more importantly, they knew what was not allowed.
I mean, currently, when a young kid goes into karting now, they do a rules test. It's called an ARCS test in the UK, Association of Racing Kart Schools. So, you know, they go around and demonstrate that they can run at racing speed and they know the flags and all the rest of it. But, you know, I believe that an online learning management system would perhaps give a wider and more in-depth knowledge to the child of what's happening on the racetrack, what the rules are, what the consequences of breaking the rules are, and also educate the parents. You know, I would envisage a parent and son sitting down and doing this online itself.
I think the consequences of breaking the rules has been an interesting topic that both of us have been involved in.
Yes.
Beyond karting and into other areas. And although I think I've got something of a reputation of being a stickler for some of it, undeservedly, I believe. Okay, too late. You didn't interrupt nearly quickly enough.
Absolutely no. Totally unfair, but when you consider that my nickname was Mellis the Merciless.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I'm not doing too badly then. I wasn't doing too badly. Right.
And you must remember, Fraser, that if you look at that photograph over there, or that illustration, I should say, you know, we all applied the FIA rules. But in your case, it stood for Fraser's interpretation.
Applies, yes. And then this is Mellis the Merciless.
Merciless up there, yeah.
Okay. Right, so I think these are probably reasonably, quite accurate.
Yes, I would say so. Yeah.
We're not. I don't think either of us is ever.
And I've probably been polite in the use of language, but
but I don't think either of us is ever going to go back to that. No. And I'm not sure I want to, because it was a lot of fun while we did that, and I don't think it's ever. You can't go back.
No, it's
go over.
Difficult to do that.
Tell me more.
About what in particular?
About Charter Hall Publishing.
Oh, it's just a vehicle for me with writing an eclectic range of probably 10 books maybe that are either been written or in the pipeline. I've got a couple of books about Jim Clark I want to publish.
Right, okay.
There's a book which you're aware of and which you are being invited to participate in.
Ah, yes.
Called The Lap of Scotland.
The Lap of Scotland. I don't know if
The Enthusiast's Road Trip. Discovering the Scottish motoring and motorsport heritage.
We saw a bit of that today when we were driving in, because we went through Duns, which is where the Jim Clark Museum is. And the last time we were at Charter Hall.
Yes.
And where else did we go today?
Where else did we go?
Today or yesterday we were near somewhere else, wasn't it? Over the border in Englandshire.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
But the whole idea behind that publication is to try and mark out Scotland's rich motoring and motorsport history in a tour of Scotland, starting at the border and going through some of the landmarks, both current and former racetracks, museums, venues, memorials to Scottish racing drivers and exponents of motoring of all types, just in a single lap, going around the whole of Scotland in a clockwise direction, just trying to capture everything that exists in the country, both that is still active today and also some of the memories from the past.
I think there are still memories. I mean, I honestly don't know who is currently in favour and is from Scotland at the moment. I think George Russell might have a loose connection, but I'm not really sure. But there's an awful lot of history in Scottish motorsport.
Scottish motorsport and Scottish motoring, because I mean, one of the things I only discovered the other week was that, did you know that the Davidson part of Harley Davidson motorcycles comes from Angus, and they have a cottage in Angus that's been preserved.
Really?
So Harley Davidson has its roots in Angus,
in Scotland.
So you know there are lots of roots. Some really, obviously the Jim Clarks, the Jackie Stewart,
Yes.
or the Dario Franchitti, or all the ones there.
David Coulthard.
David Coulthard. There's the motorcycle racer from the Borders that was tragically killed, Hislop.
Yeah.
So they've all got memorials. Jim Clark's got a museum.
So then there's the old school, Rosemary Smith that drove the Hillmanham.
Yes.
And the Apple Yards from
Louis Aiken Walker and Dance.
The Apple Yards from Le Mans days in the 50s and all that sort of stuff.
Curie Cross, the old Muse garage in Edinburgh. So the idea is to write a book about what I hope will be, with you and I, driving some salubrious vehicle around Scotland, looking at the landmarks that have made Scottish motorsport history.
I think on the basis of my holiday, although I've only spent 2 or 3 days with you down here and it has been nice, do you think we could do this salubrious vehicle with a roof on it? Because it's been pretty wet.
A roof and probably a 4x4 would probably be good for some locations.
Yes, I think so, yes, because we could go and look at them from afar, like looking down upon them. That would be good fun. That would be good fun.
So that's a forthcoming project.
That's a forthcoming project. Yes.
But a couple of Jim Clark books and a few other things that are in the pipeline.
Yes, and you're embarking, or we are embarking, so to speak, on a series of limited edition prints, which I have actually spoken about in previous podcasts. But this is the man who's driving me
mad,
mercilessly. He's not driving me mad. He's driving me to achieve more and do better. It's like going back to having your Scoutmaster talk to you again.
We're almost at the stage of, we've looked at all the pre-production copies, we've analysed paper thicknesses, content.
I'm very pleased. I really think that it's all working out, and quite honestly, when I set about the first part of the project, I wasn't really sure it would ever go anywhere, but you've really twisted my arm.
We've got it up to the starting line.
Yes.
And it's been sitting and scrutineering for some time now.
Yes. Under startled.
We've now been given the go-ahead to get to the grid, so the proof of the pudding will be when the lights turn green.
Yes, that's always the proof of the pudding. Lights turning green. Let's take a break, and I'll come back to you with the key question of the podcast.
Hello. I'd just like to take this opportunity to encourage you to have a look at a couple of websites. One of them is www.riotart.com if you're here in Dubai or the region. And the other one is frasermartinart.com if you are in the UK. Both of those sites are now looking after my design and artwork and the stuff that I've been doing with my model cars. So in Dubai, we've got the canvas finished prints, and we've got the acrylic finished prints based on 8 model cars, and there are 36 different versions of that, both here and in the UK. In the UK, Charter Hall Publications is my agent, and Gordon Mellis, my old buddy, is looking after limited edition prints of these. Have a look at the 2 websites, see if you like them. It's all about the toys. Thank you.
Gordon, I was just casting around your office as we went to the break there. So before I ask you the briefcase car question, I'm reminded of our times here in this silliness at the Dubai Autodrome and running around the inside of Turn 1 on rescue missions on Code 60. What a laugh it was.
Something I'll never forget. Because the first time that you took me between the crash barrier and the track marker, I thought he's not going to go in there. No, he can't go in there. Surely, but you did. And you did it with a variety of cars, a variety of widths.
Yes.
And you still managed to get through. But that was a fantastic...
Didn't you have your eyes closed the first time?
No, but I was probably just clenching my thighs on the feet a bit more than I would normally.
Clenched buttocks and the foot applied firmly to the floorboards of the passenger side.
But after that, and once I realised you're always driving skills.
Oh, well.
It was-
Does anybody think for a minute that I didn't go and check that first?
It was my favourite party piece.
It was good fun, wasn't it? And it was very much a party piece. Although it saved us a lot of time because getting out there and trying to find your way through traffic where nobody's paying the slightest bit of attention to what's going on behind.
Especially at the end of a high-speed state with a braking zone, joining the racetrack.
And at night.
Yes.
And at night where nobody's got any clue of what's going on. It's the easiest, cleanest, safest way to get around the circuit and let them see you.
Yes.
Yes.
And of course, the thing on the illustration as well, Fraser, is you'll see the Statler and Waldorf
Yes.
title, which was I don't know who started that off. I think it might have been, I can't remember now. But it was one of our visiting clerks for the Dubai 24.
Yes.
And Stadler and Waldorf, harking back to the two old gentlemen in the balcony and the Muppets.
And the Muppets,
kept on
yes.
giving derisory
It was
comments.
interesting because I had a photograph taken not long after the 24 hours. I can't remember which years it was. And I can't remember if you were, I think you might have been doing F-Force. You might have been out of race control.
Yeah.
And there's a picture of Walter Lechner and I sitting at race control looking over the things that somebody else did. And you can't tell us apart because we've both got these bald patches and I'm wearing a Lechner shirt.
But that moment that is captured in the illustration here has also been captured in an excellent model in a diorama that you built yourself.
I couldn't resist
which is my most prized possession.
Oh my goodness.
Which shows us in the Audi as Statler and Waldorf diving between the track marker and the wall whilst the Dubai 24-hour cars are coming in the corner. So that says it all from my point of view.
We had a lot. I cheated the model finally with the Marshall post and whatnot, but it got the idea across.
Yeah.
And the cars are after the same scale, so what we were running at the time was quite a lot bigger than what we were running past.
Yeah. But that's where my most prized possession. So I look at that every day and just think of all the fun you used to
have a laugh, yeah.
In Dubai Autodrome and Yas, you know.
Not at Yas, same time. We never had that opportunity at Yas, I don't think.
No.
But that was always good fun at the home circuit.
Yeah, absolutely.
The briefcase car is, I have a hypothetical briefcase full of hypothetical money.
What's hypothetical? You told me that.
Sorry.
I was getting any
No, that doesn't count. I didn't come all the way down here.
Oh.
But the hypothetical car is the one that you get to drive for a year and all the costs are met. We are not allowed to drive anything else. So no radicals, no mini Countrymans, no sneaky Land Rover Defenders or Range Rovers that you would have access to in your current role with
the Land Rover main dealer who shall remain anonymous.
But one of the key elements of the Kelso agricultural show.
Absolutely.
So, what's the car? And then I'll ask you why.
Audi RS6 Avant.
Yeah, I could go with that. All right. And the reasons?
Plenty of grunt.
Yeah.
450 plus brake horse.
That does. Yeah.
Practical, everyday use.
Yes.
Bit of a ghost car, doesn't stick out too much. You know, providing you don't
apart from the wheel arches.
Providing you didn't have a bright orange or something else. But no, I just think it's a good all-round driver's car. A load hauler. Yeah. Rapid when you're driving by yourself.
Yeah. I'm glad Mrs. Mellis is not listening.
But no, it's a good all-round utility vehicle that is both sporty and everyday practical.
It's an interesting choice because it's one of my my second car, an RS6. I'd still go for probably a Range Rover, although now I think the new Defenders are pretty tremendous.
I would probably have gone for a Range Rover or a Defender before I started working in a Land Rover dealership.
Oops. And is that as a direct reflection?
I lost after I knew Defender, but I just think the level of reliability that the electronics have these days is, it's not a mechanical issue anymore. The technicians are no longer dealing with mechanical problems.
Yeah.
It's all very similar to what we've been doing.
Let's not make it go.
And microphone and laptop.
It's all too technical. The length
It's very, very complex. I'm not saying that that's not the issue with other cars, but and maybe I'm being unfair to Land Rover. It's probably just I would love to have a Land Rover Defender or a Range Rover. I've had 3 Range Rovers previously, but I'll maybe on reflection park that commenting, and if somebody give me a Defender, I would be quite happy with it.
Yes, I think so. I mean, I wonder if it's here in South Scotland where it's so wet, and that's what the issue is. Because I've run quite a lot of these things. None of them have been mine, of course, but I've run quite a lot of them for reasonably extended periods in reasonably harsh conditions in Dubai, and I haven't had one go wrong on me.
And that's what I can't understand, because it just, my office sits behind the service desks, and I see the same customers coming in time and time again, and I think, why can this be, So I don't know if, I can't attribute it to, vehicles being built in one factory versus another, or being built for a particular market or another. I don't know, so...
I wonder if it's just wet. Maybe they just don't like the wet, but then they shouldn't have the badge on.
Yeah.
It's quite a strange one. I can't quite work it out. So how are you finding semi-retirement and away from the motor circuit?
I hate it.
Brilliant.
I really miss being in race control.
Yeah.
Especially with you.
Oh, fine.
I know all the banter.
And the silliness.
And, the rapport we had with the drivers.
Yeah.
And I keep on telling everybody about, some of the events and issues that we've had.
Yeah.
And you'll remember one in particular, Fraser.
Yes.
Well, 2 in particular.
Right, okay, go on.
Porsche Cup, Dubai Autodrome.
Right.
And there was a particular Porsche driver who you had me looking after track limits that day, and I was running up and down like
you can say blue-ass fly if you want.
running up and down from the front of the race control to yourself with all the track limits data, and you decided to have a tutorial with one particular driver after the race.
I don't remember that.
And you called the driver in and you pushed a blank piece of paper towards the driver,
right,
and gave him a pen and said, "There you go." And the driver looked at you totally confused and bemused. He said, "What do you want me to do?" And you said, "I want you to design your own racetrack because you're obviously not happy with the one I've given you to race on today."
I do not remember that. But it's not surprising that I don't, because an awful lot of that stuff was just done quick.
I know.
Spur of the moment,
And
move on, get something else done.
I would just kill myself laughing. It was just unbelievable. And of course, the other one involved myself at a driver's briefing, Fraser.
Yes.
When you were going through the rules of Code 60.
As in the Code 60 stoppages, yes.
We were all sitting there being told how to deal with Code 60 and to slow down. You were speaking to Tarek.
Yeah.
And everybody's saying, when the Code 60 flag comes out, remember you have to slow down. That whole idea of the 60 on the flag is that's what you have to slow down to.
Yeah.
And he said, except, Gordon, you have to speed up for a Code 60.
I don't remember saying that either. That's a terrible thing to have said. I've not said.
It's probably true, actually.
I don't remember. And one of the things that kind of ticked me off a bit when we were there was the dropping of the Code 60, because I thought it was a fundamentally sound way of securing the safety of the marshals and the drivers and the track in the event of an incident. You got everybody slowed down straight away. It gave you time to think, gave you time to plan, gave you time to sort stuff.
at the end of the day, it's no difference to the virtual safety car they employ in the Formula 1,
Exactly.
2 and 3 series today.
Yeah.
It's just a more basic, fundamental procedure that can be applied at racetracks that don't have that FIA technology.
And a physical side of it, as you say, if the technology is, if you're not up to Formula 1 standards on your track, it's a physical manifestation of an instruction.
The one thing that really irritated me was when I came back to the UK in the summer when I wasn't in the UAE during the season. I would come back and we would talk about Code 60 amongst the officials here. And nobody had a good word for it. Nobody would, even though it was written into the regulations, none of the clerks would try and apply it on the basis that it was just a disaster waiting to happen. And I tried to convince them that, well, if it works in Dubai, why shouldn't it work here?
But I think a lot of that, I mean, I seem to remember that an awful lot of that was just old school resistance.
Very much so.
You know, we've never done that before, so we're not doing it now.
Very much so.
We've never been able to make that work. Have you tried it? No, but we've never been able to make it work.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. And it's such a clever system and such a simple system. Yeah. And you know, with the Dutch guys using it for 24 hours, I mean, how many times was an incident exacerbated under Code 60?
Yeah.
Never.
No.
Never. But you'll still get virtual safety car compounding incidents.
Yeah.
And getting saved. I mean, how many times have we watched video of safety cars going on the circuit and taking a racing car out with them? Or vice versa?
Yeah.
And that wouldn't happen with Code 60 because there's no physical intervention on the racing surface.
Plus, you save time by getting the race neutralised and under control. And you also reduce the amount of time that the race is neutralised because you can restart the race without having to wait for the safety cars to go back in. So from my point of view, it's a perfectly workable.
I always liked it. But I think at the end of the day, neither you nor I, since we're both virtually retired from the business, is going to make the slightest bit of difference.
Not at all. No. But it's still good to give everybody our opinions.
Yes, exactly. And it's good to air those opinions.
Yeah.
And if you're not paying attention, yes, this is my opinion, whether you think it's right or not. Yes, that's always the way, Gordon. I'm not going to prolong your agony any further.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I'm going to make this because I think there's more to this, and I'd like to be doing this again. I'm going to investigate a way of doing this by video link at some point.
Absolutely.
Because I'd like to do it again. I think there's a lot more to do.
But what I would suggest, throwing an idea from left field out to you here, is that if we do the lap of Scotland, we should do that as we go around.
Oh, definitely, yes. I think that would
be a real outside broadcast.
That would be a proper outside broadcast. In fact, it might just be outside in the rain.
Yeah.
Anyway, for your hospitality over this weekend, and for Glynis's kindness, and the technological ability that has, I hope, reached this as being a final podcast once we've edited it. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thoroughly enjoyed it. You're welcome here anytime.
Let's do it all again soon.
Absolutely.
And that's it from AUTODRONE for this podcast. There should be another one soon. Let's all catch up then. Thank you very much.